here. Welcome. And Rob is off frolicking in Los Angeles today, so Gerald and I are taking over for him, and guess we'll start out with Rosemary.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our open table where we learn from each other with respect and act to end homelessness in Pierce County. We acknowledge our debt to the continuing shepherding of this land and water by the native peoples of the Salish Sea, especially the Puyallup tribe of Indians. Call ourselves to listen to and uplift the voices and experiences of the indigenous peoples of this land and beyond. Today, I start with despair, though I get somewhere else by the end. The beginning was messy, and because I often find the words to help make sense of things, among the many poetic voices I've listened to over the years, I went looking for others writing about despair and what to do about it. Maybe you aren't feeling despair right now, but if you've showed up in this space, you're familiar with reasons someone would go there. At every level, we see evidence of the shredding of the social safety net, with a national budget aiming to cut billions of federal dollars for child care, SNAP, school lunches, Meals on Wheels, rental assistance, Medicaid, Medicare, and more. At the same time, here in Tacoma and Pierce County, we're soon to lose many overnight shelter spaces and day shelter options. And as the school year ends, we'll likely see an increase in family homelessness as evictions in Tacoma can be initiated. Given these challenges, of course, despair is tempting. But just yesterday, while scrolling for thoughtful responses to these days, I came upon the perspective of historian Rebecca Solnit, who writes about hope in trying times. Despair, she says, in its own strange way, is a form of false confidence. It is a sense that the future has already been decided and there's nothing we can do about it. In fact, the future is something we make in the present. Yes, I had to agree. We do make the future in the present. But absent strong alternative strategies I can picture, with measurable, achievable goals, I can feel more like the now discarded yard sign we used in a previous campaign that insisted, quote, "We can end street homelessness by November 2021. I still know we could have with a wider commitment of resources, but we didn't. And right now, the number of people without stable housing makes it feel like we're going backwards. It's really hard to stay centered with disappointment, worry, and fury swirling about. I do believe in the importance of all the public, community, volunteer, and nonprofit agency efforts to provide emergency resources for our unhoused neighbors, food and water, towels, blankets, medical and legal assistance. I believe in the importance of persistent public testimony on the need for investment in temporary housing options while we imagine and co-create more permanent housing solutions and alternative ways to meet the growing needs. I offer a poem that undercuts the fatalism of the bogus claim that homelessness is an unfortunate part of the human condition beyond our control, rather than a humanitarian crisis we have the capacity to end. Marge Piercy's poem, The Task Never Completed, draws on her Jewish tradition to make sense of our uneven efforts to build a better world. I offer Piercy's words to center us today for the ongoing work of sharing towels and testimony and creating solutions with our unhoused neighbors in these trying times. The Task Never Completed by Marge Piercy. No task is ever completed, only abandoned or pressed into use. Tinkering can be a form of prayer. 26 botched worlds preceded Genesis, we're told in ancient commentary, and Hashem said not only of this particular attempt, "It is good," but muttered, "If only it will hold." Incomplete, becoming. The world was given us to fix, to complete, and we've almost worn it out. My house was hastily built, on the cheap. Leaks, rotting sills, the floor a relief map of Idaho. Whenever I get some money, I stove up, repair, add on, replace. This improvisation permits me to squat here on the land that owns me. We evolve through mistakes, wrong genes, imitation gone wild. Each night, sleep unravels me into wool, then to sheep, and then wolf. Walls and fire pass through me, I birth stones. Every dawn, I stumble from the roaring vat of dreams and make myself up, remembering and forgetting by halves. Every dawn, I choose to take a knife to the world's flank, or a sewing kit. Rough improvisation, but a start. Speaking of rough improvisations and the task never completed, for this Memorial Day weekend, I encourage you to explore a barely known history of the earliest celebration of this holiday, called originally Decoration Day. This took place in 1865 in Charleston, South Carolina, where formerly enslaved residents honored Union soldiers who had died in a war they marked as a triumph of their emancipation over a slaveholders' republic. It was not about state rights, defense of home, nor merely soldiers' valor and sacrifice. It was clearly a task never completed, as so much of our nation's racist history demonstrates. I'll put a link to this brief article in the chat. In the meanwhile, welcome today to our common task of building new worlds. So welcome again, everyone. And just a reminder for those of you who are new of how we operate here, we ask that you keep yourself on mute if you're not speaking, that you use the raised hand function or wave your hands wildly about so you can be recognized. And then if you're doing something that might be distracting, to turn your video off, but to turn it on when you can, if you're able to, so we can meet each other in this space. If you're new, and I should say, we also use the chat for conversation and for information and to ask questions. It might be more basic if you're new, or you're not sure about using up the group's time, or you just want more resources. So people do communicate with the chat, and it's not at all disrespectful to do that throughout the meeting. We also ask that we pay attention to the norms of good conversation, where we take space but also give space and don't speak too often. If we have something more to say, to use the chat for that. So with that, I'm going to invite anyone who's new to introduce yourself. This is not a time for a long introduction to your work or your agency if you represent a group, but if you do want to speak to us in a little more lengthy time, Teresa will put her information in the chat, and you can make an arrangements for a partner spotlight to inform our group of what you do and how we might work together. So with that, this is just a time to say hello if you're here. It's not at all intimidating. I know we have about 55 folks, so who am I to say it's not intimidating? But the point is just to say hello. We'd like to have you here and know how we can be of use to you. So if you're new or returning for a while away, just raise your hand and Gerald or Teresa will recognize you.
Yeah. Nick, good morning. How are you? Welcome.
Good morning. Yeah, my name is Nick Leiter. I'm returning after a while. Work for Catholic Community Services, and I'm director of Family Housing Network.
Welcome, Nick.
Welcome, Nick. Thank you. Ross, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. I haven't been on the call for about a month, so I just wanted to say hello. I'm back. I'm with Tanwax Country Chapel. We do street outreach. Good to see everybody today.
Thank you for being here. Happy Fun Friday to both of you. Thanks for returning and thanks for coming in. All right. I don't see anyone else. So if anyone's there, you can't get off of mute or can't get your hand up, we welcome you and hope to hear from you soon. So we move on to our next point of the agenda. This week on the streets. This is a good time for everyone to speak up. Now, if you've seen anything new on the street, anything particular, anything going on that cause interest or caught your eye, this is that time to put it out. Sally, good to see you this morning, as always.
Good morning, Gerald, and everyone. The thing I saw made me really angry. I was driving to a church thing. I was down at 14th and MLK, and there was one tent on the parking strip by Quickie 2. And there were not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 police cars there with their lights flashing and officers standing around. And I thought to myself, I can't imagine what would be going on in that tent that would require 5 police cars. So I'm really concerned about the harassment of unhoused people in Tacoma, and I'll leave it at that.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. I think we all share that sentiment. It's kind of rough. Doesn't take all that just to kind of speak to someone to see what's going on. Thanks for sharing. Don't see any other hands. Anyone else? Seen anything? Have anything you want to add? Conversations?
Lori has her hand up.
Hey, Lori. Good to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you too. I have something, it's not, I have all kinds of stories from our neighborhood, but you know, that's just the way it is. But actually some people across the street, we live across the street from the Lincoln District Post Office, and there were some people just kind of trying to keep warm the other day. And they lit a little fire. And, you know, there wasn't anything around them, nothing dangerous, but one of our neighbors got very upset about it and called the fire department, which is about 3 blocks away. Fire department came, left. That's just normal stuff. But what I wanted to say is we're working on a new website, as you know. It's slow, but it's kind of, we're ramping up. We're getting more done all the time. If you want to come and participate, if you have ideas, thoughts, whatever, just see what we're doing. We're meeting just as a website work group on Thursday morning at 9:30. So that's happening. Right now, what we really like to do is we're working on history, and we want to be able to have photos. Now, I have a lot of photos going back 2 or 3 years from various things, but any photos you might have from the past, present, just things that you think might work for the website, just send them to me. We'll incorporate stuff. So I'll put my correct email for sending photos in the chat, because it's different than my work email. I might miss something. That's it.
All right. Thanks, Lori, for sharing. Good to see you as usual.
Yeah, good to see you too.
And Teresa, co-host.
So I want to add to that the website work group is a half-hour meeting, so we get snappy, we get some stuff done, and so you're not making a huge commitment, but we would appreciate other folks showing up whenever you can. I do want to, Rob asked me to share with y'all that he doesn't know how, of course, the weather is unpredictable, but there is a thought that there might be an 85-degree day in the coming week. And that's a reminder to us that even though it feels like yesterday that we were trying to find hand warmers, that tomorrow we may be looking for ice water. And that brings me to this. If anyone knows of someone who'd like to donate a freezer to the Outreach Supply Closet, that would be a wonderful thing to have in there so we can keep some frozen water bottles for people when they come to pick up water for outreach. It's a process that allows people to cool themselves off with the ice bottle before they drink the wonderful water inside. And we are working on more cups that are not going to be thrown away, reusable cups. So that's another thing that we are keeping our eye open for, so we can fill up some water bottles for folks instead of continuing to add plastic to the universe. Thanks.
Thanks, Teresa. Thanks. So please check out the chat. There's some things being put into the chat. Lori, someone dropped something in the chat for you as well. So it is active, so check it out. See no more hands to this segment. So we're going to go ahead and advance on and move to our next thing on the agenda. We have a council member, Janet Hitchens, the chair for the Pierce Council. Now, if you are ready, we are ready for you, ma'am.
Thank you, Gerald, and good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. And just wanted to take a moment and share a shift in the work of the council. Many of you over the last 2 years have been engaged with the work that we were doing through our Select Committee on Homelessness. And last year, my intent and thinking really was we would keep that committee going. We had a really good work session with the council in retreat, and every single one of my colleagues, no matter their party affiliation, housing and homelessness came up as a priority. We all attack it a little differently and have different thoughts, but it was a priority for every single one of us. And so it was really upon bringing on a full contingent of staff at the council level and seeing that there really was support to really do some work. So not the learning so much, but actual policy work, that we determined, instead of doing another select committee that kind of stands alone, that we would just bring that work and put it directly into the committee that I chair, which is the Health and Human Services Committee. So what that means is the learning we did and the learning we're continuing to do is now going to move into changes in policy. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody within this space, many of you came and presented to the committee, you shared your stories, you shared your work, you shared what you were seeing on the streets, you gave recommendations on things we could do. We are now to the point where we are going to really basically fill up the schedule this year with additional learning opportunities to make sure that the rest of the committee understands what's going on, and policy work, meaning making decisions around funding, around code, around the rules that we use to do any of our business in the county actually has a place in a standing committee. I don't know if I have the ability to, I do not have sharing. I can put it in the chat, or if someone
I
wants.
I can give you
I
that
can-
ability if you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can let you share if you want.
Okay,
Yes.
that's great. I threw together a one pager and I will also send it to you so that you can share it out to the broader group.
Okay. 1 second here.
And while they're working on that, Carrie Waterland's on here she often comes to your meetings, but she's our principal policy analyst in the human services space. And so oh, look, I have it. Okay, now to share the right screen. There we go. That's what I want. Okay. So essentially, the change that we're looking at is really having, sorry, I'm on two screens, so I'm not going to look at you. I'm going to read what's on the screen. But we really are just moving everything into Health and Human Services. And the plan right now really is to focus. So several of you will be in my committee on June 3rd. We're going to be talking about the seniors in our community that are actually street homeless, but also how we're trying to keep people in their homes, some of the supportive work. We're going to be learning and talking about our continuum of care. And for those of you that weren't tracking, we signed on and helped lead some a lawsuit against the federal government because our continuum of care funding has been put at risk due to the state's affiliation with Keep Washington Working and a whole bunch of other things that we are not comfortable with. It's a much broader conversation, but many of you are aware that Washington State and Pierce County firmly believes in the civil rights of those that call Pierce County home, along with a whole bunch of other things, and that we will not essentially be bullied into shifting how we think and serve the people of our community, no matter their documentation status, no matter who they love, where they live. Like we need to serve them. And so essentially what this does is it takes the learning that was done and really puts some very, I'm going to call it the homework of the committee to make those policy decisions. So we do have a couple other areas we're going to focus on that were important. So youth and mental health shows up in there, but even looking at how we're actually going to do this work. This one in September is all around affordable housing. Our county was one of maybe 6 or 7 counties across the nation that are really working together to talk about how do you build affordable housing? How do you fix this pipeline that has been broken on affordable housing? And Washington State and Pierce County got selected to be part of that group. Rosie Ayala is involved in that. So we'll be hearing about their work. And then how do we kind of stem the tide of people entering homelessness? So this ties together because of the URA work. We have policymakers from multiple jurisdictions that are engaged in that work. We have staff from multiple jurisdictions that are engaged in that work. And so having a separate committee just didn't make a lot of sense. I wanted those elected officials to focus their time on continuing to come to the table for the URA, to continue working together on how do we get to countywide solutions and collaboration on some of these topics, because what we've been doing hasn't been working. You are all aware. And so we're really trying to see how we can really focus the energy. And that was one of the other factors around not having a select committee. I didn't want to have all these fragmented. So I really wanted to focus the energy of the electeds on the URA work, and I wanted to focus the council's energy on policy. So potential things that we're looking at right now are changing the code around temporary housing communities. Many of you tried to help us get that passed last year. It did not. I believe it got vetoed. And so it's in our comprehensive plan that comes before the council. We also are looking at our county investments in housing and homelessness. We're looking at MFTE, multifamily tax exemptions. We're working on the policy around the URA as that's developed. And then the other big unknown is the potential impacts to both housing and homelessness services in the county when we look at the state and federal budgets. And I think that will land squarely in health and human services as we think about developing our budget, but also just how are we going to manage with the least amount of harm? And so making sure that we have room and space to have those really possibly hard conversations that are coming before us because of what we're seeing at the federal level. And so making sure that staff time, county, and my colleagues on the council have time to really do that learning and walking together. This was the move that had to happen. So I'm going to stop sharing. I could not see the chat while I was talking, but happy to answer questions. And I will, I think I can put this document in the chat so then everybody can have it. So let me know how to deal with questions, Gerald, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, council member. Greatly appreciated. Looking for questions, and
There's in the chat, Steve Decker talked about wanting to see zoning changes that allow 2 to 4 ADUs. I don't know what the 10R parcels are, but that's a very good point, because zoning has been a big block to many forms of housing over the years. And when you talk about the backlog of the need and the fact that it hasn't been happening, a lot of it's because the city, the county, other places have chosen to have zoning codes that don't allow for alternative housing. So is that high on your agenda?
Yes, two big things. One, and so for Steve, if you're talking about 10-acre parcels, we really are trying to we're trying to essentially put a quash on urban sprawl. We don't want density all the way to Mount Rainier. And so we're really trying to figure out how do we allow for infill and housing and moving up. We need to build up. We're running out of land in the urban areas, and we need to keep people from, building multifamily units out beyond where services are. And so we're looking at two things. So one is allowing in unincorporated Pierce County, countywide, temporary housing communities. So that would be on any acres of land, any of our churches, nonprofits, or even private landowners. If they wanted to do that right now, it's illegal. We're working to change that code so that it would be something that people could do. And whether that is an encampment or a tiny home village, right now you can't. And this would allow that to happen, which is great, along with kind of solidifying our safe parking rules. The second part, as far as other types of housing, it's opening the door to a variety, and that's the biggest thing. We really are working hard to make sure that people that want to age in place can put an ADU on their property, or a mother-in-law apartment, and allow their parents to age in place with them. And 100%, Jessica, affordable is one of those things. How do I get the private market to build something that's affordable? That is a really huge challenge for us. And so we've got dollars now, the Maureen Howard Act and some of those other programs, to be that public partner to try and address that. But it's it's going to be a challenge because for-profit companies are doing it for profit. So that's why we need to kind of figure out how do we work together. We've got some really great programs. If you didn't watch our Health and Human Services meeting, was it last week, Carrie, where Duke was on? We had a whole bunch of people that came and talked about some of the programs that they're doing. We just have a lot of really good work going on. Mobile home parks. So we're continuing to work on that. We are tracking several mobile home parks, including one in my district, and really appreciate some of the work between the state and our county. And then our Community Development Corporation is really interested in thinking about how do we maintain affordable housing, and some of the most affordable housing that's out there are mobile home parks. And so one of their thoughts is this maybe a model of how we could actually build and maintain affordable housing in our county, is building mobile home parks, like intentionally building them. Because when something goes wrong with a unit, you just replace the unit. You don't end up with like an apartment complex where you have an entire floor that's out of commission, right? Like the impacts to neighbors are not as great. So, but maintaining them is definitely a challenge, and that's in my area, in Parkland and Spanaway, we have a lot of mobile home parks that I am worried as we densify that those will be threatened. So we're continuing to kind of map and keep track of them. But a really good question, and we just need to, if anyone reaches out, if they own mobile home parks, if they think they're under threat, they could start working on that, learning together about how to become a tenant collective so that they are ready should their property come under threat.
Duke, you have a question?
You're muted though.
Are you on mute? You're still on mute. There we go.
Oh, I'm curious. One of the things that the addressing a lot of the needs that you talked about for increasing density within the urban growth management area and allowing for creative development was the shared housing project that we're building under, and then that was withdrawn. Now that it's been shown to be legal and had 3 legal challenges and the zoning's been allowed, is that something that you might revisit at some point?
So the change in that was for the specific type of property you were on. And I think my colleagues would still struggle to do that when we also we set a goal of saving 100,000 acres of green space, and a lot of those are those green spaces in kind of urban areas. It's a really good question. I think we really are focused on the properties in the urban area that are sitting vacant, street fronts that have nothing built behind them, those properties first. And then maybe, but it's shared housing is still allowed in most of the UGA, just not in, I forget the official name of the type of property it was, but the resource
Rural.
rural
It was
resource.
rural resource was
Yeah.
the one that was added, but I thought it was actually rescinded from all of the county. So it is still allowed to have the 4-to-1 ratio of development in non resource.
Yeah,
Okay.
within UGA, yeah. Yeah, and shared
Okay.
housing is a really interesting, I think, especially with our aging population. Like I've literally thought about this for my property. Like, what if I built a 4-bedroom unit, like a house that has shared housing on it, and then I can age in place with my friends, right? Like I think people
Yeah.
thinking that way is a really interesting idea, and it's not how we've thought of housing. But I think it's one of the ways to allow people to stay in the community and then build their own little mini community.
Yeah. Well, and I think after we get this developed, it'll be easier for people to envision too.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'll.
No, it's all good.
There's a couple of comments in the chat about affordable, right? Whether it's affordable, disabled, or just affordable for anyone that's in the community. So something to think about in that.
Yeah, it's
Questions.
one of those things, Jessica and Gerald and the team, it's like we can call it affordable, but affordable to who? And even if it is affordable, then especially if it's rental, is it attainable? Meaning, are they going to qualify because fill in the blank with whatever check they're looking for? If they have an eviction on their record, or they have some sort of criminal background, like all of those. So they may be able to afford it, but they can't attain it because of these other rules that have nothing to do with money. So when we're talking about people accessing housing, it's not just, it is a multi-pronged issue. It's not just, do I have enough units? It's, do I have units that people can they access them if they don't have a car? Because if they're way out in the middle of, inside the UGA, but I don't have transportation over by Frederickson. So they may be able to afford the unit over there, but if they can't get to it, it's not attainable. So it's all of the things.
Gotcha. See Teresa's comment. See no other questions. There we
Larry's
go,
raising his
Larry.
hand. Yeah.
Larry, there you go.
Hey, Jenny, nice to see you freshen the focus of your committee. With a still new executive and restaffing the county offices, what is the overall strategic framework for your committee? Are you turning to the COC for their strategy, or, what's your thought about the strategy action framework within which you're operating?
So I think when I think about kind of strategic planning for the committee, we are in a budget year, so we will be developing our biennial budget. That's going to take a ton of time. And so I think we're looking at what are policy changes that we can make intentionally and propose that will actually increase the number of housing units at all income bands and shelter beds in places that we need them. I think the other part is how are we investing dollars that reduce the potential harms that could come from changes at the federal level. That's one of the things that is it's a tough pill to swallow, but we need to be ready to react. So when I think about the funding being lost to the COC, that we put a temporary restraining order, we landed in favor, so we think we're good. And for how long? Until the next lawsuit, until the next executive order. So we're really trying to make sure that we're responsive. So I think our priority right now, if I was trying to do that strategic planning, is what are the policies we can put in place that help us implement a budget for 26 and 27. Does that make sense, Larry?
Max.
Thank you. I was just going to bring up maybe not a quick fix, but a policy that the county should consider is supporting, or lobbying for the state to consider land value tax reform to really shift the burden, off of improvements. It's valuing the land separate from the improvements. And I don't want to get too heady into the economics of it, but this has been explored in many other communities and championed by advocates for those who want to reduce homelessness in their communities. And so I really urge the county to consider, pushing for land value tax reform in the state.
So Max, I'm not familiar with that. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and if you have any white papers or somebody who's done it or report, I would love to read it. I saw Carrie nodding her head too. So that way we're not reinventing the wheel or doing our own Google search and finding something that maybe you've already looked at and go, this is the wrong idea. And that would be very much appreciated.
Absolutely. I didn't want to drone on and create a whole presentation for folks, but just want to bring that up. Thank you.
Yeah. And we're continuing, I mean, we are looking to expand land banking and community land trust. I think the other thing, the work that Habitat for Humanity is doing about buying up the homes from the Pierce County Housing Authority and then turning them into permanently affordable housing allows people to build up equity, be first-time homeowners, and then they're able to, as they sell those off, if they are ready to move on, then they can sell them, and because the land is in this trust, the house remains affordable no matter really what's going on with the market. which is a huge win. It's not something we've really done at this scale. And Carrie beat me to it and put in an email in the chat. So thank you, Carrie.
All right. So the chat is still going, it's still active. Gary dropped something in about mobile homes for you. So maybe something to take a look at and interest at. I think we're gonna go ahead and move this section. So if everyone still has anything going on, please put it into the chat. And we'll try to make sure you also see the chat as well, Jenny. Thank you so very much for giving me your time. Appreciate it. All right, we're gonna move on to our community spotlight. We're gonna talk about the Community Climate Resiliency Survey. And I'm going to turn it over, but I am from Alabama, even though I'm wearing this San Francisco shirt. I really hate butchering people's names. So if you please let me know the pronunciation of your name so I make sure I get it right. So the spotlight is yours. I'm going to say soup for now, but if that is incorrect, please correct me.
You're right. Hi, I'm Soup. I am excited to be working with 350 Tacoma and Native Daily Network. We were selected by the Office of Emergency Management, the City of Tacoma and the City of Seattle to gather community input about disaster resilience hubs and emergency preparedness. Our area is vulnerable to a range of natural disasters. And so the survey is really how prepared people are for it. And we're looking for community input, and it helps the city decide where to allocate money in emergencies. So it's a pretty important survey, and I'm trying to make sure that as many people have access to it as possible. I'll put a link in the chat for it. That is a crazy link. I think that is the right one. But we're having a couple of events to go along with it. The next one is going to be on May 31st from 10 a.m. to noon, and we're getting together to pack go bags in the Common Good space, which is 621 Tacoma Avenue South. We'll be having conversations about what resilience hubs are, what they look like when there's an emergency and when there's not an emergency. We're going to talk about some resources that already exist, and we're trying to gather contacts for providers that do provide services during emergencies and non-emergencies so that we can have a community open house where the providers will table and then provide some information for the community, because so far the survey results are pretty concerning, as expected, and that people don't really have plans for what they will do or where they'll go, and they're really looking for information. And yeah, we're looking to provide that for them. I'll also put in a link for 350 Tacoma, just that their webpage has information about the project, and there's also a link to the survey in there just in case this one doesn't work. But if you are a provider and you're looking to get involved, please reach out. We're looking to have a discussion in July about what our open house in August is going to look like. And if you're just looking to have more information or get involved, the Go Bag Packing event is great for that. I don't have a very long presentation about it. It's the very beginning stages of this project where we're really focusing on the survey, because that's really the first step to like knowing what is needed in the community. And I feel pretty focused on trying to survey the houseless community, because I feel that a lot of these people are already like in crisis, and that isn't really being recognized, that like there is already a need for these hubs of services. But we're hoping, yeah, to get more money allocated to them and really intimately know what the community needs and be able to provide that.
Thank you, Sue, for being here, Jan.
Thank you.
Good morning. I was teaching student nurses from Pacific Lutheran University 10 years ago with the health department, the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department, and we surveyed face-to-face, knocked on doors. Emergency. And the findings of these student nurses taking face-to-face, and these were randomly selected addresses coming from the CDC. There were hundreds of them. The overwhelming findings throughout the county was that the average resident does not have an emergency plan, probably will not have an emergency care plan, and in the likely event of an earthquake, plan to the closest public building, either a church or a
Yes.
school. So
Mhm.
that made me curious. So I went to one of the biggest churches here in downtown Tacoma. They had no clue that they were part of the community's disaster preparedness plan. That they had absolutely no clue. So as you're finding out data on resilience, building resilience for emergencies, be advised that you're going to get some answers that the rest of the community doesn't know anything about. And as far as interviewing folks who are homeless, it's such a transient population that the answer, for instance, here in the city, we get a lot of folks who are experiencing homelessness who came from Lakewood and Puyallup, right? So
Mhm.
when they think of emergency preparedness and response, they think of Lakewood and Puyallup, but they're here. So it is a very a bunch of strange answers.
Yes,
Thank you,
I
Jamie.
am getting a
Go
lot
ahead,
of the
Sue.
same answers. Um,
All
yeah,
right. Thank you.
there are a lot of
Thank
people
you.
that are gonna go to like I know that the schools are part of the county's emergency plan, so I'm trying to spread more information about like that churches and libraries aren't really going to be open and it's gonna be more revolved around schools.
All right. Thank you, Sue. Really appreciate it. And I think you did drop your email into the chat. So everyone make sure they contact out the soup. And so we're going to push on to the next event. Really thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next thing on our agenda is we going to Tacoma Rescue Mission, and we now have Duke Paulson up, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Question. So I think I submitted a presentation, or do you want me to run it from here, like to share screen?
Yes, I can share with you. All right, you have the option to share.
I'm gonna, let's see. Yeah, I'm just gonna run through quickly the slides. This is a, sorry, I'm pulling it up right now.
All right.
So I'm basically, as I'm sharing screen, I'm here today talking about here's what the rescue mission is doing on a couple of different fronts. So we have, let's see, is that sharing?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. I will. Oops, and it's the wrong one. Uh,
If you pull down the slideshow menu and the bar at the top and say start
Yep.
from, yeah, the slideshow, I can't point at it. There it is.
Okay.
Oh,
So let me do this. Sorry, share the right one now. There we go. Okay, so here's quickly about the Tacoma Rescue Mission, just what we are. A lot of people in this group know the Rescue Mission and the services and partnered with this. So just a quick overview. We've been in the community serving since 1912. The main things, the primary things over those years, 113, almost 114 years now, has been meals. So we provide about 1,000 meals a day from our kitchens to people that are hungry. It's a primary, um, people come. We don't house 1,000 people a day. We house under our roof between 500 and 600 people a night, but the obviously more people are coming in for food, and so that's a leading part of this. We do have shelter for men, for women, for families. We do have affordable housing. We do have housing for specifically for single individuals, for women with children, for families. We also operate clean and sober housing. We do operate one of the Thames sites. We've also used tiny homes as a way of transitioning. So people are doing well in the shelter as a way of transitional housing between shelter and into ultimately get into housing as a gap. We also operate street outreach programs. A couple of different vans and teams go out during the day. And then at night, we have a volunteer-based search and rescue team that follows up and goes out at night as well, or it goes out at night. So basically twice a day, different teams are going out to all around the county to outreach and serve people. That can be obviously partnering with other services, but our goal is to help people transition to permanent housing or off the streets, even if they won't come into a shelter. So if we can get them into housing or shelter right away, we'll do that. But sometimes it's just case managing people and helping them get into housing without ever leaving an encampment. We also have, we give out a lot of clothes. We give out actually thousands of tons of clothes each month, clothing, sleeping bags, blankets, hygiene supplies, underwear, socks, all that stuff that comes through the Tacoma Rescue Mission goes out to the community. We also have a really good donation supply. And so we use the surplus of that and have 2 thrift stores on 6th Avenue that we use. And the proceeds from that go back into helping pay for our addiction recovery program. And so I think that's the last part of it. Of the main emphasis, what we have is we have both a men's addiction recovery program where people can live for up to a year at the Rescue Mission, getting clean, re-engaging with work and family, and then we have the same program for women with single women and women with children, where we provide apartments for them to live in as well. Here's a quick rundown of our housing. Tyler Family Housing is permanent supportive housing for families. Jefferson Apartments is SROs, about 40 of those. Sound House is clean and sober. And the Good Neighbor Village, which is being developed, will become 285 units of permanent supportive housing. So that'll actually be the largest permanent supportive housing project in the state of Washington when it's developed. Here's a slide about our addiction recovery program. It is recognized as one of the top 10 in the state based on basically they based on recidivism and how many people 2 years later are still clean and sober. Some of our big numbers of what we do, about 3,700 people, individuals a year that we serve, almost 300,000 meals, 13,000 people, over 13,000 people that we connect with our outreach and search and rescue teams going out into the county, outside the walls of buildings and into the community. My favorite number is 501 people moved into permanent housing or transitional housing out of the Rescue Mission, and 267 left with a job or increased income. So if you were working a little bit, but we got you to part-time or full-time, we track that. And then 30 people graduated from the addiction recovery program. So between those 3, you're looking at 800 people that are leaving the Rescue Mission with a lot better situation than they came in with. And then maybe a lesser known fact, we also provide mental health and chemical dependency counseling. So about 1,400 hours of mental health support and chemical dependency support that was given to people that come and stay with us. We have 3 initiatives going on right now. One is the Good Neighbor Village. One is the downtown campus, which we're expanding, and then one is just and everyone gets this, sustaining the team that makes all the rest of this happen. On the Good Neighbor Village, and I anticipate I'll have questions about this, so I'm going to kind of go through it and then let people ask their questions after. This is taken from the Community First Village in Austin. When I went down and visited it, they've been in operation for 11 years now. They're housing now over 500 people that were chronically homeless in cottage homes, or they're bigger than tiny homes, so we're trying to change the way we say that. They use 200, 300 square foot units. Ours are going to be 300 and 400 square foot units. Each of our units will have a bathroom, will have a living area, a kitchenette, front porch. Really more like the DADUs that we were talking about earlier in this meeting. It's designed to be a community where everyone's welcome, no matter what your background, but everyone's expected to participate in the community. So everyone will pay rent. Everyone there is offered an opportunity to work on the property. If they don't have ways to pay that rent, you can work for it. And so that can be watering plants, cleaning, giving tours, working in the garden. There's lots of different ways that it's like a house. There's lots of chores that you can give out, and so people can work there. And then a lot of this is built on partnership. So the Rescue Mission is really developing and operating the base level of this, and then we have a lot of partners that are coming in to provide supportive services. So multi-care we're working with, Comprehensive Life Resources we're talking to, I'm talking to the YMCA, talking to Goodwill. There's lots of different groups we're talking to about coming in and providing, whether that's physical and health support, mental health support, chemical dependency support, etc. When you have over 250 people in one area, that'll be something will have robust programs to support people with. This side's a slide we use for the cost of chronic homelessness, just so people that don't know as much about it and the cost of it can have some of that information. Again, I'm kind of talking to the group that knows a lot about it, so I'm going to go over it quickly, saying, hey, it's $35,000 a year supporting chronic homelessness per person in the community. That's a lot of it is support services and maintenance and cleanup and emergency response, etc. I am quick to say that doesn't mean that taxpayers get $35,000 back in taxes. It means that money can be repurposed to help other people's needs in the community because the systems are still there. It's just this is some of the highest utilizers in the system. The profile, this is something that we really have been working to help people understand, because I think people just in the broad community don't understand homelessness and the spectrum of it. The target profile for this is chronically homeless people. So we're looking for people that we think there's about 1,000 people that fall into this category in Pierce County. They've experienced homelessness for years. So not just the HUD definition of 1 year, but we're really looking for people that have been multiple years. Our initial goal is trying to target people that have been out 10 years, somewhere in that area of experiencing homelessness. We anticipate that their average age will be in their 50s. In Austin, it's about 55 plus is their average age of people coming in. That they desire to be part of the community, so they're choosing to come live here. They know that there will be expectations on them. They know that there will be expectation to pay rent. They know there'll be expectation to work and participate in the community and obey the rules. But for doing that, they have a community to live in. We anticipate that people will have a physical disability or a mental health diagnosis or both. We're actually looking for that. So if you have that, that's at least one of those things. That's kind of an extra plus. It's not a negative for us to bring you in. Again, everyone must pay rent. You must obey the rules of the community. And for providers that work in this field, the life expectancy, is not very long. And so the life expectancy for someone that's been chronically homeless for 10 years is early 60s. And so we anticipate that there will be a lot of people that will also, this will be the last place to live. This is not emergency housing in the sense of like the Rescue Mission 90-day housing, temporary housing. This is actually meant to be permanent housing for people to live, because when you're in this situation, you're probably not going to go back to living independently again. Here's a little overview map of the property that we're developing. So this is, if you can picture Spanaway Loop Road and 176th, if you go out in Spanaway, if you go all the way down Spanaway Loop Road, you hit a point where you have to turn left on 176th. If you were to take a right, you would be turning into this property. And we were talking with Councilmember Hutchins about this. This is a unique situation because it's in the Urban Growth Management Act. So it's something that is zoned to be developed as part of the county development, not urban sprawl. It is zoned for residential housing. And we're able to use the shared housing 4-to-1 ratio to increase the housing from, if you did single family housing on this, you could do about 180 units of housing. And we're going to have 285 because we're doing these smaller shared dwelling units. And so you see, basically, there's a long road that'll come in off Spanaway Loop Road and go to the back part of the property. If you go from Spanaway Loop Road at the tip of it, where it meets 176, to the back of that property, it's almost it's over 3/4 of a mile to the back part of the property. So it gives you a little scope of how far back. It's almost a full mile before you hit JBLM at the far tip there. So it is really kind of set back into the back part of that property. And the beautiful thing about that is also on 3 sides, you either have a huge buffer, wetland buffer and JBLM, which has no development around it, or 24 neighbors. And so we're really not impacting a dense neighborhood community either. If you want to see more on the website, you can see this. So there's not only the houses, but there's common spaces. There's an art building. There's a community garden. There's an aquaponics building. There's a living room for people to gather in. There's a lot of different common spaces to help to develop that community as part of this property project that we're doing. Here's some pictures from Austin. The homes they use are all kinds. They have 3D printed homes. They have homes like this that are actually mobile homes that are developed like park model homes, I should say, and brought in. All of our units, I kind of use this just to show this is what it looks like. You can have a beautiful development and homes. All the homes we're doing are slab on grade. So it's basically, here's a concrete foundation and a home built on it. So it won't look like this with mobile homes. There'll be permanent houses built on the property. So I'll leave for questions in that. The other big thing that we're doing that we have now selected a contractor and will probably begin construction on in next month, I'm hoping, end of next month, we'll be expanding our downtown men's campus. So over the last 5 years, the Rescue Mission in 2020 opened a shelter just for women, for single women, which more than doubled the capacity for single women experiencing homelessness in the community to go. Now we're taking what we learned from that and we're doubling our men's shelter, which was originally built for 60 people in 2001, regularly holds 120 people now, and we're going to expand to over 210 people. We're not really supposed to, in order to get to 120, we have mats on the floors and cots out, and we put people in our dining area. So this will actually have space for 210 people. Everyone has a bunk, everyone has a locker, everyone has an electrical outlet, some personal space, no more bunk beds with ladders for people to climb up and down. A lot more, just a lot better feel, and also just way better bathrooms and showers and facilities to accommodate that much. It also is going to add a second floor, which will increase our addiction recovery program, which currently is 25 men at a time, to 50 men that will be allowed to be in the addiction recovery program on the second floor and live there. Here's a little picture of the bed system that we started with the women's shelter and what it looks like. Like I said, you can see it's a lot better than the current bunk bed. It still allows us to have the density that we have. And but it creates a lot more barriers and personal space for people to be in. And the response from the ladies who've had it have really appreciated it. And so we're looking forward to having that for the men as well now. How to get involved, volunteer, donate, give a gift, take a tour. Thanks a lot. So I'll stop there. And open myself up for any questions you guys have about what's going on and where we are in the process and timelines, any of that kind of stuff.
So I just want to let people know that Gerald is having to leave for a meeting, so I'm going to be hosting the rest of this. So thank you, Duke, for that. And we'll start. I saw that Jan had her hand up first, and then Courtney is next.
Yes, Mr. Paulson, thanks for coming. Jan Runbeck, public health nurse. I had the chance to go to Austin last summer and I visited the village. Next to the clinic, there is a healthcare clinic on site in Austin, is a little store that has a few items for sale, and folks who live there are able to sell their artwork and other things that they make. So a little retail place for folks to be entrepreneurs was appreciated, and I don't know if you're considering that some common area for the public to be able to do a little retail, let's say goodwill. So that's one thing. But I can tell you from experience that folks, this particular population, I'm pretty well, my colleague here at Nativity House and I are pretty well familiar with the characteristics of this particular population that you're hoping to serve, one of which is the use of 911. And the 911 calls are made by folks who are experiencing a sense of urgency and the people around them. So the demand on 911 fire departments, that's the closest to your site, goes up unless you can either there are ways to address the overuse of 911 calls with good partnerships, and we'd be willing to talk to you about how it's worked down here in Nativity House. But I do know that Multicare has a 24/7 urgent care facility out there. The issue is primary care providers and all that. So I know that you've taken into account some of those barriers. But good luck to you. I think it's pretty darn exciting.
Thank you. I'm gonna respond to a couple things there. One, we do plan to have an art facility as part of therapy for people to engage, interact, and a place for people to create and sell what they're doing. That's one of the things that people do for income. Dignified income is what they call it at the village in Austin. And so we have built that into our model and what we're doing as well. My aunt is actually a professional artist who graduated from PLU and went on to work for Nordstrom's and design and do a bunch of stuff. And so she's actually coming out to help us set some of that up because she's done marketing and art stuff for years. And then in regards to the partnerships for mental health, one of the big buildings in the middle is an 18,000 square foot building that has half of it is space for up to 250, 300 people to be able to meet in. So you have a centralized gathering space, and the other half is set aside for providers. And so the second floor is for providers who want to come partner and have hotel space here. And then first floor we'll have medical space, we'll have mental health space, we'll have private meeting space for case managers or people that are going to help with financial assistance or whatever. And so it really will be an open space that people have been to. Kind of reminds me of if you've been to San Antonio and seen the big property they have there, where they have a spot in the middle where multiple providers around the community can come together and help. That's what it's going to be like there. Okay, go ahead and keep. I also have some questions in the comments, so I'll let whoever's facilitating keep going.
Okay, go ahead, Courtney.
I'm really excited about the some of the improvements on your Good Village plan, Good Neighbor Village plan.
Mhm.
increased unit sizes with bathrooms in them. Like, I'm really impressed with that. So thank you so much. Some of the and I'm not sure if what I'm going to say now is about the nuance of language or if it's as it was said, but and I didn't write it down quickly enough to precisely quote you, but you mentioned how people who do well in the shelter go on to tiny homes. And I had a friend and housemate who had some mental health crises over the years. And when she was not in a crisis, she was an excellent housemate. But when she was in
Mhm.
crisis, she was not an excellent housemate. And I don't think
Mhm.
she would do well in a shelter. And so she is a person who would need her own space. She might do okay in a village,
Mhm.
in a tiny home, but even in that kind of community, I don't know. But
Yeah.
and I know that there are people who are banned from emergency shelters because of some problems,
Mhm.
and I respect that people like I'm not always great because trauma, but
Yeah.
and so uh to have this like litmus test to get to the next level, it might be a barrier that people can't overcome, and those very people who have problems might be the ones that need that to be promoted prematurely by current standards. So I wanted to
Yeah.
offer to rethink it not be a stepping stone problem, but an meet your needs program.
Mhm.
And then the language around, I heard you say obey rule, people have to obey rules. And I would I would suggest using the language follow rules. And then I I heard that, not all your services are contingent on religious requirements, engagement, but I've also heard from people who receive your services that some of your services do come with religious practice requirements. And I was raised Lutheran in a church that did not harm me, and yet I still moved away from Christianity, not because of harm, just because of personal choices, I
Mhm.
no longer vibe with it, right? And so but for the most part, like, I'm most worried, so I avoid seeking services from religious institutions, and I'm not even harmed by the religion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I have concerns around that. And then I'm hoping that there might be services for any back to the neighbor village, its proximity to the base. I lived in South Tacoma near 56th and South Tacoma Way, and I could hear the bombing, and I was under the flight path. And so
Mhm.
I'm hoping that there's extra sensitivity to any veterans who might be qualifying for Good Neighbor Village, but that its proximity might be triggering. So those are the things
Yeah.
on my mind, and it's a lot, and I'm sorry.
I do want to step in for a sec. We are actually over time, and that was like 6 questions so I think what I will ask is that um, I have 2 things to ask. One is, Duke, it would be lovely if you could come back sometime and just talk about the Good Neighbor Village, because I think there's a real interest in there's a lot more detail that many of us would like to ask about that. And
Yeah.
I will also ask that you give a sort of, maybe choose one of Courtney's points and respond, and then we'll hear from Dr. Jarvie, his question. And the last thing I would like very much to hear from you is what the timeline is for your expectation for being able to welcome people. So go for it. And
Sure.
then
Yeah.
Doug, you'll be next.
And I'm willing to stay a little longer. I don't have anything right away, so people want to keep putting questions
Well,
out there. I'm okay with
it's
that.
more
But
about
if
the
you want to
other,
end, that's fine.
yeah, with the other
Yeah.
people on the agenda, so we do have to
Oh,
move.
okay. Yeah, I get that. Okay, so couple things. I'm gonna do 2 for Courtney real quick. One is the Rescue Mission doesn't require any faith engagement with any part of our project, our program, in what we do, housing or services, with the exception of in our addiction recovery program. We do address that. Uh, we do believe that there's people are created in the image of God, and there's you have an intrinsic value. So we do have that in that alone, and we're very upfront about that in that specific thing. Everything else, including the village, does not have any requirement for or faith indoctrination requirement. The other thing, Courtney, I just want to be clear. When I talked about going from shelter to transitional, that's for our men's shelter, or for our downtown campus men's shelter. We do have a tiny home village, and we use people that have hit their 90 days and would be forced to exit per HUD. We then transition them over to the tiny homes as a way to keep them longer and provide longer engagement and case management. It's not the only way to get into either program. For the Good Neighbor Village, we're actually anticipating not to have to come through shelter. We're looking for people that have not been in shelter or have been maybe in a shelter for years. So it's not a pathway. And the village is specifically designed, like the reason we have individual units rather than multifamily homes is to create space exactly for your friend. You have your own space, your own door. You're not sharing a wall. You have 15 feet between you and anything else, and privacy. Because people have been highly traumatized, we want to have as much of a trauma-informed response as possible, even though it's higher cost for us. So there's a couple of points in that. There's way more we can go into, and I'm happy to talk to you, Courtney, afterwards, and appreciate just being careful with language. I'm just trying to go fast in some of that. So I think you said Doug was next. I'll stop there and let him go.
Thank you. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I'll be quick because Courtney really kind of, generalized a whole bunch of thoughts that I was thinking about too. I would also like to say that because I also, work for a religious-based organization, that I was harmed by religion, Courtney, and I was bitter. And but as now I can see the effect on the community that religious and religious-based organizations have, and I have a lot of respect for the passion and interest. And I also am a fierce protector of people's rights not to participate in religious programs. So I do respect that. Duke, the only thing that Courtney also talked about that I wanted to sorry, that's my cat. The word forever is forever homes is a little bit hard to define when you talk about things like rules that they have to follow. And I know this because you probably get calls about us, and we get calls about from people who say, oh, I can't go to the mission because they won't let me there. They won't let me in. I can't follow their rules, whatever. And Nativity House the same way. So when you're using the word forever, I think a definition of that is appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate that. It's interesting because part of me, I'm trying to answer questions from the community that I get. And again, this is a special group because you see a lot more. The Rescue Mission does not have a list where you're never allowed to come back. If you do something, start a fight, do something that is like against our core rules, distribute drugs and alcohol to others on our property, etc., you'll be asked to leave. But it's for a limited period of time. And if you come back later and say, oh, I'm sorry, or hey, it's been 3 months, can I come back? Yes, you can. So we don't have a you're never allowed back rule. People will say that, and I know people say that in the community, that we don't have that. But we also have people in the community that look at this project and go, oh, this is great. You're going to get people cleaned up, and then they're going to go on and do other stuff. And I'm trying to also mitigate the understanding of that, saying, look, for the people we're serving here, you're talking people who elderly, disabled, mental health issues, possible substance abuse issues. They're not people that I love the fact that 700-800 people a year are leaving the rescue mission to get into housing and go live independently again. This is not set up that way. This is set up with the acknowledgement that most of these people, some will, there will be, but most will. This would probably be the most dignified living situation they're going to have for the rest of their life if they stay engaged. We also have to have rules, and we have to have some boundaries that say you can't do certain things, and you can't break certain rules. And if you do stuff that's illegal, we can ask you to leave. It's going to be definitely a place of grace because we know we're bringing in people that have had every strike against them. So I'll use the example of someone that has an arson charge, or it's like you can't rent from you have a felony arson charge. You can't rent from anyone in the community because no, their insurance won't let them bring you in. And we've said this, and there's no felony background that's keeping someone out of being in the village. But your behavior once you're here, we're going to work with you on it, but we're also going to say, hey, we need you to be a good neighbor, actually work with others. Even if it just means living quiet in your house alone, that's okay. But you can't go threatening people and starting fights and doing other things without that potential leaving. And I get it. And so we have the balance of both. And so when I say that, but I am trying to get ahead of people in the community that think, oh, this is just transitional housing or something like that. Like, no, these are actually meant to be permanent homes for people. And that's part of why we're building them. I appreciate someone earlier saying that. With that permanency of, no, this is actually a nice home for you to live in. You have heating and air conditioning and personal space and closet and all the kinds of stuff you'd want to have in your own tiny dwelling.
Well, thank you, Duke, for all of that. I know that I have like 15 other questions that I want to ask. So when you come
timeline.
back, go ahead.
If you can give me 60 seconds. So timeline. There were major hurdles in just kind of developing this. Obviously, the big ones were, can you find the property? Can you get it zoned? Can you all the stuff to get developed? Knowing that there would be opposition from people in the community that wouldn't want this to be close to them, and so legal challenges. The legal challenges were settled. The Superior Court decided in favor of the rescue mission back in March. And our agreement with the county was we would get through the first 3 legal rounds, which was to the Superior Court decision. And because after that point, after all these have been in favor of the rescue mission, if someone continues to appeal up, I mean, you could, in theory, you could appeal to the Supreme Court if you wanted to. But at this point, it's stalling tactics because everything's agreed environmentally and land use wise and other stuff. This is appropriate and approved. Now, if someone appeals, and they are now liable to pay our legal fees as well if they continue to lose. So there's a severe disincentive to continue to fight against this. So we feel good about where we are with that. And per the county, that was our agreement. The other thing is we're just waiting on our permit to put in the road, sewer, water stuff with the county. And we've been waiting for almost a year now for that permit. So hopefully any day. We just had a meeting with them again this week with more questions that they're asking about site lighting and what kind of light bulbs we're going to use for the street lamps and what kind of foundations we'll have, the benches they'll have. It's amazing the detail they can get into. Once they approve that, we will begin construction within 60 days probably of getting that permit. And so that will really keep things rolling along. So once we get that, our goal is a year later, so 12 months after we get that permit, to actually start having homes on site where we'll be hopefully moving people into. So our original goal was we thought we'd have that permit and this other stuff done by the first quarter of this year, and by early next year have things in. Now we're looking at summer next year. Hopefully we'll have people moving in on this property.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us about this, and we'll be in touch about another specific to the village conversation.
Yeah, I can be really specific and just open up for all the questions about that too. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. And now we are at a point, we're a little bit behind, so I'm moving the advocacy updates to after the government reports because folks may need to leave. So I want to, we usually start with the city. Don't know who's here from the city. Oh, well, Bianca? No, I thought I saw that you unmuted, so I thought you were saying, okay, so I think we'll go to Devin and then circle back if I find somebody from the city lurking. Go ahead, Devin.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I don't have a lot of updates for today. My first one is that the HEN Housing and Essential Needs RFP is still open. It'll be open until May 27th. So that is a program that supplies rental or provides rental assistance for households that are utilizing certain DSHS services through the state. Our next community feedback session for the development and amendment of the comprehensive plan to end homelessness is happening on July 19th, which is a Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1. As soon as we have that flyer and registration code ready to go, I will share it out with this group, the full coalition. Love to have you there. We're making some really good progress and strategies. We're working closely with the implementation advisory board of the comprehensive plan, as well as an ad hoc group we put together to help with those strategies. And we're really looking forward to, in July, bringing forward a really strong draft of how are we actually going to get to these 7 goals of our comprehensive plan to end homelessness, meet the state requirements, but actually shift the dial on the work that we're doing to serve people experiencing homelessness. So these strategies are really baked into programmatic elements of our system. So how can we actually impact people, not necessarily just an overarching goal, but how do we actually implement programs that are going to improve the system that is serving folks experiencing homelessness? So very excited to be bringing that draft to the table in July. And I think that is all that I have. Next IAB meeting is going to be the first Friday in June, which will land on June 6th. Everyone is welcome to attend. We'll be talking about the comprehensive plan to end homelessness. So that plan has to be completed by the end of the year, including full approval through the executive's office and the Pierce County Council. So we are in full work mode. And then the only other thing I would add is that our youth homelessness demonstration program is moving right along. We have an RFP that is almost completed to get those services out so that people can apply for YHDP funds. Our Youth Action Board, Pierce County Youth Action Board, is hard at work, and I just want to give them some applause through the governance structure of the YHDP work that we're doing. The Youth Action Board is charged with the decision-making of YHDP programs and how those programs are going to be run. So they've done an amazing job. I want to shout them out. And, it's my hope that we can get that level of engagement across the board for all homeless service programs and let folks that have lived experience helping to make decisions along the way. So that's all I've got. Happy to take any questions.
I'm scanning the room. I don't see anything in the chat.
Looks like Duke has a hand up.
Duke, go ahead.
Timeline on understanding HHP funding and impacts of that would be.
Yes, good question. We received our budget from the state on the 13th of May, so we are rolling through that, evaluating where there may be shortfalls or where we may be even. For those folks on this call that don't know, we rolled out two-year contracts for our largest homeless program, which is the homeless housing program. It is the bulk of the funding that we distribute for the majority of our homeless services: street outreach, day center, emergency shelter, rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, and transitional housing. And that second year of the contract is set to start on July 1st. So Duke, we're definitely honoring the second year. We're not procuring, so everyone will get that second year. And what the funding amounts look like are coming very, very soon. Because the state gave us a budget so close to the start date of the new contracts, we are hustling to get those dollar amounts and those amendments out to the providers as quickly as we possibly can. So more to come, and very soon it will be coming.
Yeah. Anything you can indicate, even of it looks like there will be, because I understand any reductions are going to be across the board to everyone. So anything that the county can indicate, like it looks like it'll be a 3%, 5% reduction, it looks like it'll be flat. looks like it'll be a 15% reduction, because I'm the same thing you're feeling for that pressure for July 1. My organization feels for July 1, and my staff feels. And if we have reductions, I really need to tell them by the end of this month. And so if we have a 10 or 15% reduction, I don't want to have that dropped on me in the middle of June and have to figure out how to respond to staff and the impacts it's going to have. And I'm just, saying that. So even if you can just say, okay, it looks like there will be, we don't know how this all parse out, but it looks like the total money that we needed and the total received is a gap of 7%. The earlier you can let us know, that would be great, because even just having things like open enrollment for my team right now is impacted by this. So thanks. Just wanted you to make sure you heard that.
No, and Duke, I respect that very much as somebody that used to be a provider. Like, these last minute decisions and getting things basically a month and a half before we know are tough and a
Yeah.
challenge for everybody. And we actually have our proposal from the homeless team ready to go. That'll go to the executive. And then once we get approval for, yep, you can move forward in this way, and this is what the numbers are going to look like, then we can come out and make those announcements to all of the providers.
Okay, so thank you for that. Anything else for Devin? If not, thank you for, I know these are really uncertain times for all of us. Yeah, the tension is on. Go ahead, Amanda.
I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute. Hi, I'm actually Mira Lee, and from my mobile office here, and wanted to ask a question of Devin. Hello. First of all, thank you for speaking. Thank you for this update. Devin, instead of asking questions and needing answers that will take everybody's time here, I just need to know who to call in the county for a couple of specific requests. One, and sharing this with the large group, from the McKinney-Vento perspective, we are running into a few families, two in particular, where the single parent is dealing with life-threatening, possibly life-ending illnesses. And both were rejected in the rent lottery. They didn't get picked to help with rent. And we are looking for any kind of a program that could help someone stay in their apartment and not have to leave, while also going to the Hutch 2 to 3 times a week for chemo. And one is particularly critical. We've had some wonderful local community partners, even teachers digging out of their pocket trying to pay rent for this family. But we're looking for any kind of system of care that the county, a housing authority, might have for these families. And then the second question is just needing some more information about the stuff I'm hearing about more rental assistance money coming in the community for the next year. So who can I talk to about those two things from Pierce County?
You are stuck with me, Marilee. So, yay, you're stuck with me, and I can walk you through some of that stuff, because we did get more than anticipated for eviction prevention for the 25-27 biennium budget. So I can talk to you about what that looks like, and then I do have some ideas for that family. So I'll shoot you an email after this call. One thing, and I can't believe I forgot this, y'all. This is shame on me, but we have selected our new human service director. Gary Gant, and as we will call him, Director Gant, starts June 2nd. Director Gant has a history with HUD, behavioral health, and really, I am just very much looking forward to working with Director Gant, and I could not say enough great things about him. And so I hope everyone on this call has an opportunity to work with him at some point. And I will ask him if maybe he's willing to come and say hello to the group once he gets started.
That sounds good. Thank you for that. So moving on, Isaiah, there you are.
I am here. Hello everyone. So I have a few just bullet point updates regarding the street medicine program, and I'm sure there will be questions. And so I or Brogan are happy to answer them if they come up. So I'll just go through my list here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we're still doing outreach. So I did outreach this previous Monday with our nurse Megan, and we were hitting up the Portland Puyallup kind of intersection area, and we saw about 20 folks there. Did our typical giving out food, giving out Narcan, giving out shoes and socks, things like that, typical kind of supplies that we give out. And the other team, I believe, is going out today. So Megan and my colleague Sharnay Ducrest, who is from Treatment Services here at the Health Department. I'm sure some of you know who Sharnay is. They are doing outreach today, I believe, on the South Tacoma Way 38th area. So we don't have full numbers of what we see this week, but if folks would like to see a full list, or not a full list, but a general estimate of what we're seeing and who we're seeing, I'm sure we can get that information for you in the future. To go along with that, just speaking of TRM, I did a ride along with them on Wednesday. I joined their case management outreach team for the morning, and that was really wonderful. So thank you for that. I got to see how they operated, kind of get lay of land, see how they work with clients and what they give out. That was really wonderful to kind of see what worked for them, so we can kind of bring that information back and see what works for us. So if you would want me to go right along with you, I'm more than happy to be a part of that. Additionally, our nurse practitioner will be starting Tuesday. For those that missed last week or don't remember, maybe we hired our doctor as well. So we're going to have our doctor and we're going to have our nurse all ready to go coming up here shortly. Additionally, we're still contacting parking locations for leasing agreements. So I'm doing that work. Right now, we're primarily focusing on the 72nd and Pacific area. So if you have any suggestions in that area, or if you know any connections of a parking lot that would be useful, please let me know. Additionally, our doctor, Joel, has met with Greater Lakes to see if there's a way to carry medicine with us. So instead of having a prescription where we give it to them and they have to go find a pharmacy, finding a way to actually have whatever that may be, medical care, antibiotics, that kind of thing, to give them directly. So we're working on that right now. Our inventory is complete. So for those that don't know, we have a lot of storage. So Brogan, myself, and Megan and a couple other folks from the health department went through and cataloged everything in our storage unit. So we have a full idea of what we have. We also received a shipment of, or not a shipment, some medical supplies from the MRC as we were running low. So thank you to the MRC for that. And we are still waiting for our no-cost extension from the city of Tacoma. So we have not heard back from them quite yet. So those are my updates. Do folks have any questions for me or Brogan?
So my question is, should I not call you Bianca?
I get that question at least once a day. Yeah, Brogan's a nickname. I'm not really pressed either direction.
Okay. Thank you. And I did have a conversation with Brogan earlier this week, and she showed me a before and after picture of the storage unit that had all the supplies in it, and she's done a very impressive job of I don't know who you had helping you, if that was all you, but it was quite an organizing task. So there are some supplies there, and I know that you made contact with Jan. I hope that all went well and more supplies are flowing as they should. Any other questions for Isaiah or Brogan about the street medic program? Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, Isaiah, can you tell us a little bit about the flow of information? I'm concerned about, I'm worried that there's no barrier between the health department and the city of Tacoma, given the sweeps. So if you're going out documenting where people are, is the city getting that information? And how do we protect the people who are most at risk of harm by your documented outreach?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, so as far as I understand it, and Broken can chime in if I'm not correct here, we do have to share that we are going out, but we don't have to share, and we don't share specific locations. So we do for our own documenting, like we went to this location, we saw this many people, we gave out these many things, but when we go to the city, we don't say we went to XYZ, address on this street, to keep that information private. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you both. And we're always excited to hear about how this new project is going. So I appreciate you joining us to give us updates. So we don't have any severe weather, but we always check in to see if the emergency management folks have anything they want to throw into the mix. I don't see somebody here. All right. And did I miss any other government folks who want to pitch in? We don't have everyone on the list who has to do with government who shows up. So if there's something you want to share with the group, this for future reference, this is a good time to raise your hand. This brings us to our good trouble announcements and stories. So this is a time if you are, it is fine to be self-serving in some level for your organization. You have a fundraiser you want people to know about. You have an event that you want to invite people to. If you have services that are new or different or people may not know about, bring them on out here. And also, if you have a story of a success, this is the time to share that. And I see Jan's hand up.
Yes, because of this coalition, partnerships are made. Here at Nativity House, we had a particularly fragile. Oh, can you hear me? There's a lot going on here. You can. Okay, great. We had a particularly medically fragile woman who was in danger of pretty poor outcomes without serious intervention. I was able to talk to Keith from St. Joseph Hospital, and Keith's social work discharge team just absolutely made magic happen. We got her to a skilled nursing facility yesterday where from here on out, like Duke was saying, we know that the life expectancy of this particular population is tough. This particular woman had an apartment in Lakewood. She was living on a inheritance. When the inheritance money ran out, she then moved into her tent on the Tacoma side of the Puyallup Emerald Queen. When the tent was swept, she moved into her car. She was living in her car until she had severe health complications of living in the car. She came to Nativity House in pretty bad shape, and Keith and St. Joe's Hospital have now put her in a safe, healthy environment. And I just can't tell you the lift of the staff around here knowing that this woman was going to be exited because she's not independent. I'm sure that's true at TRM, Duke, and there's a certain level of independence that you have to be in order to be an emergency shelter. And this woman was failing terribly, and it was going to be ugly. So based on everybody knowing everybody, today is a much better day than yesterday was. So a big call out for that. But also, I do want to make an announcement about folks have heard that the day center at Nativity House is closing June 30th based on everybody losing funding. So the clarification on that, and Fatima is going to come next week. The clarification on that is that all of the overnight guests will still have access to the day center. The day center will be open to people who have a bed assigned to them. It's the outside folks will not be able to get in except for meals, the 1 hour of breakfast, the 1 hour of lunch, and except to see us nurses, and except for appointments for the case management here that have resources for them. They're still working on the details of how outside folks can access the other benefits here, and you'll hear more from Fatima next week. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's actually been a big concern. There's been a whole lot of kind of rumors going around the street, so I appreciate you clarifying. Jan, it seems that they are going to run it much the way they did during COVID, the same sort of plan, but they will have different staffing configuration. And again, Fatima will be here next week to talk with us more about that. So mainly we wanted to make sure that that got out, and the rumor mill, at least a few of the rumor mills would be shut down, and the rest can just keep going where they go until we hear more. Also, I made a mistake of moving the advocacy thing even further down the road. So Sally, I don't know if you have anything to share for upcoming advocacy opportunities in the city or county.
Yeah, this is in the chat as well. So there's no city meetings next week due to the holiday. County meetings, there's one meeting next week that's important, I think, for us, Committee of the Whole, which is the whole council working in kind of a modified study session format, working on the budget on May 28th. That's Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. That's the first time they'll be talking about the potential impacts of state and federal cuts. So I think that could be a meeting of interest. The agenda's not up yet. It will be up later this afternoon. And then next week, the meeting that Janie Hitchen talked about is the Health and Human Services Committee on June 3rd. So that's not next Tuesday, but a week from next Tuesday. That will focus significantly on issues regarding seniors and persons with disabilities who are living on the streets. There's a group that often gets overlooked in terms of what their needs are and how they can be best served. So I'm really excited. Some of us advocated for them, for that committee to look at that topic, and Carrie Waterland and others worked to make sure that would happen. So that's an important meeting again for people who are interested in services to those groups. That's it.
Go ahead. Thank you, Sally. For people who don't know Sally, she is one of the most outspoken people at in testifying on behalf of the things that we care about. So I appreciate you keeping your finger on that pulse and doing so much advocacy. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yes, I have two things. One, Janie Hitchen's, Councilmember Hitchen did touch on the court case that they are pursuing. I listened to it on Wednesday. It is on YouTube. And we did win that, another 14-day injunction. And the attorney for our side, I think he's called the prosecuting attorney, but it feels weird to call him that. He's not the defense attorney. But he informed the judge at the end that other jurisdictions are now interested in joining the case, and also expanding it beyond the HUD and transportation contracts, because other contracts also have these kinds of stipulations. So that was the update that I did, and I was a little distracted during Councilmember Hitchen's statement. So if she said that and everything I said was repeat, I'm sorry. But then the Lived Experience Coalition does have a contract with the COC to perform an evaluation and update on the coordinated entry system, the front door of the homelessness response system. And so we're very excited to do that. We're just starting, and I will be reaching out to providers who do the coordinated entry to get feedback from the providers. But we were, and in doing that, I will also be asking providers if they have space, but that we can use to have lived experience feedback sessions in as well. And when we do those lived experience feedback sessions, we will be offering stipend to those who participate, so that they will be compensated for their time and effort in sharing their experiences and insights with us. So I just wanted to let y'all know that that is moving forward. I'll be reaching out soon, and that I will have that additional ask to see if y'all have any space, and if you can, if you're willing to inform the people you're working with that they have an opportunity to participate. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Courtney. Garrett, I don't know if you were on the agenda today, but I remember that we talked about you. Is that for next week or this week? Oh, you're muted.
Say that question again.
So I know that you had there were some items you were going to share, and I think it was next week, but maybe it was this week. I'm sorry if I missed it.
That's why I raised my hand. That's the teaser. Is next week I'm going to come and talk about where money comes into the homeless system and where we spend it. So I collected a bunch of data for the Unified Regional Approach, and it's not going to be all the money in Pierce County, but it's going to be everything I could dig up. So I'm excited to present that. I'll send out early next week a link to a visualization that has where the data is, and then we'll just have a talk and walk through that. And the other thing I'm going to say is Council Chair Hitchen. Let's give all of the due that Council Chair Hitchen deserves. So I'm going to throw that out. Soft-spoken and a human being that I have a great deal of respect for, but the dignity of rank. Thanks.
Yeah, Garrett's the only one who calls me Dr. Power Drudas too, so he's well aware of those niceties, and thank you for reminding us. Anyone else have something to share? Christine.
Yeah, so sorry I'm off camera. I'm having some problems with my connectivity today, but I just wanted folks to know that the supply closet will be open today from noon to 2 p.m. for outreach supply pickup and showers. I'll be there. Drop by and say hi, or bring someone by for a shower, or come get some supplies.
And to add to that, this morning I'm going to drop off a backpack, a kind of larger backpack. We don't usually get those, and some other donations that came in. So there are blankets there. Christine, I'm trying to remember everything that's there, but there's water, there's snack bars, and we welcome people who are doing outreach to come on by and pick up supplies to take out. And we also have people who walk in off the alleyway who just need things for themselves. And the showers have been going well, and we can only do like 4 showers per day because we have the 1 shower, but to let people know to come early and sign up. So noon is when it's open, goes from noon to 2. Go ahead, Sheila.
Thank you. I brought by some cases of water the other day and just wanted to, let you all know. QFC had a freebie, so I was able to get free water for the Common Good Supply Closet.
Thank you for that. And I should have said that. Also, the Needle Exchange program dropped off some children's socks for the event, the free market event that's coming up. And I'm sorry I don't have the dates for that, but I will put it in the I'll send it into the pipeline if someone hasn't already done that. So if anyone is working with children, please let us know, because you can come by and pick up. We got lots of socks. Anything else? All right, well, go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like the least likely there are better people to mention this, but I want to get it on people's radar. I believe it's June 22nd. It's the Sunday of that time frame. There will be a community market at Common Good from, I believe, noon to 4, but again, other people know better. And but specific to Tacoma Public School families who are facing evictions. So, and if you want to donate any money for that event, St. Vincent de Paul's has a Tacoma Public School specific fund. So we're directing cash donations to that, and you can find it on their website. And if you want to table or provide other services or physical non-monetary donations, to reach out to Common Good. Pastor Shalom is probably and Jake now at St. Vinny's is probably the best people to reach out for that.
Thank you. And I saw that Sheila is asking for a flyer, and I should have had one at the ready to post in the chat, and I don't. So I apologize for that. And as I say, I will find it and send it out on the listserv so that you can share it with people. Thank you, Courtney. That was more information than I had. Anyone else? If not, no, that was a thumbs up. That's cool. If not, then we'll actually do what I always try to do when Rob isn't here to keep his eye on me, leave in the meeting 10 minutes early so that you have a little extra time in your day. Anyone who is willing or able to stay around to help plan the next meeting and maybe future meetings, or if you have something to comment on, you want to throw it into the ring, and so that those of us who are doing the planning, put it on our radar. Come back in 5 minutes. We'll be here back in 5 minutes, and we'll talk about that. Thank you all.